All right, guys. Hey, Chris Gorman here again with Gorman Residential and another episode of Real Estate and Money. Today, I'm going to be explaining why, despite the Fed's continued interest rate hikes, it is not going to have the desired effect on the housing market. So, stay tuned for a quick discussion about that. So, the reason why inflation is scary, and the reason why the Fed is continuing to raise rates is because if inflation gets out of hand, the government has to step in with things like price control that can very quickly lead to a socialist or even communist situation. Those governments came to be, really. Um, and Inflation is democracy's number one threat. So we have to stop it, and the Fed is doing everything they can. And the question is, do they continue to raise, or do they pause, or do they even reverse course? A lot of economists are saying they might reverse course and start to cut. We've seen it before in history where, in an inflationary period, the Fed backs off too early and things go right back to the way they were, and they have to then overcorrect. That's what happened in the 80s when we saw interest rates around 15, 16, even 18% at times. And that's what we're trying to avoid. And so the Fed is basically risk erring on the side of causing a recession, basically forcing us into a recession. Uh, they see that as the lesser evil versus being in a hyperinflationary period. The reason why it's not having the desired effect on housing, well, there's a couple reasons. First of all, housing is complicated. It's a basic need. You're not going to throttle it up and down by interest rates alone. The biggest factor, however, is that as the interest rates continue to push higher, the bond markets and everything kind of working behind the scenes uh, is predicting that we're going to go into a recession. It's going to force the economy into a recession. Well, when we go into a recession, the Fed is going to cut rates. So all these things are already priced in to the mortgage rates and the bond market, because the way that the markets work, they work on predictions well in advance. And they're already basically assuming that we're going to go into a recession, that the Fed is going to go too far, rates are going to be too high, and it's going to force the economy to break in other ways that we haven't seen yet. We've already seen the banking crisis, and kind of that was a byproduct of both a rapid rate increase, the likes of which we've never seen before in this country, and poor risk management. But we don't know where else the economy could break. But the markets are betting on the fact that it will. And so what they do is they go and they play that one step further, and they say, okay, well, if recession is basically impending, we know that the Fed is in a recessionary time going to cut rates, and so we're going to already factor that assumption in, and it's preventing mortgage rates from going higher, because mortgage rates price in the economic signals that they receive from economists and markets and everything else. And so, here we are in a very, very low supply market still, because, if the rates have done anything, what they've done is continued to keep supply low, because people that would otherwise be moving aren't. They're not leaving their 3% fixed rate 30-year mortgage, even if they would like to. They're just choosing not to. So sellers that would otherwise be in the market are choosing not to be, which is keeping supply low, while demand remains at an all-time high, which is continuing to force prices up, and will probably do so over the next, for the foreseeable future. Some people are saying as far out as maybe 2030. And yeah, I mean, you can't, if they want to fix this problem, they have to figure out a way to create supply. So you can't do that overnight. One of the things you can do, or we can do, or governments can do, is decrease regulation, making it easier for builders to build and quicker for developers to develop, which would bring more product to the market faster and help to alleviate the supply shortage, which would, in effect, tame prices and help to balance out the scales of supply and demand. There's just no possible pathway to a housing crash. There just isn't. And in fact, the opposite is most likely true. Even if we do go into a recession, even if the Fed continues to raise interest rates like they have been doing, housing is generally going to be okay, and I think we're going to be. We've never seen this type of price escalation before in history, but we're sitting here in April of 2023, and my team sold a house a couple weeks ago for $80,000 over asking price with 7 offers the first weekend on the market, just like it was, peak market 2021. So I think everybody kind of took a breather while the Fed was doing what they're doing, and now it's back to business as usual. Buyers are back in the market, and there just isn't enough property to sell. That's my 2 cents. Hell, I could be wrong. Nobody has, nobody can tell the future. If I could, with 100% certainty, wouldn't be sitting here today talking to an iPhone camera. But those are my thoughts. That's what I'm putting my money and my chips behind. So hope you found that insightful. If you have any follow-up questions or want to talk about it, by all means, please reach out. You can always reach me at 919-670-3005, Chris at GormanResidential.com. And if you've made it this far to the video, I take it that you found this information useful. So if you're watching it on YouTube, please hit the like button, share it, subscribe to the channel. That helps me out a lot. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.